Tech Cocktail Sessions, educational and inspirational talks from experienced startup founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders.
Thanks, guys. It's good to be here. I'm going to take a little different direction. I kind of tricked you with the design talk, but I'm going to talk about how our process of design can affect finding your true north and actually navigating you on the way. So I've been at this for a long time. I've built over 250 startups. I've built 5 of my own. A few of them were good, most of them weren't. So I've been through a lot of crap. And it took me about 10 years, but I think I actually found my true north. And it's the mission that Frank shared earlier, and that's what we've been working on. Ever since we found that, our business has been totally different. But when we first found it, we were like, yes, we know where we're going. Like, we can see off in the horizon the destination. But then we looked at it and we kind of realized, like, man, that's really far away. It's going to take like a lifetime to get over there. And like, where do we start? Like, do we go left? Do we go right? Which way is even north? So we realized we had to make a map. And we realized there wasn't a map that I could buy at a store, or there wasn't a book I could read, there wasn't a mentor I could talk to learn from. So we had to do this all on our own. And so I'm going to share with you what that map is, what our process is, and hopefully it can apply to you guys as well. So we use this process called betterment. It's our philosophy. It's something that we embody inside of us as people at Digital Telepathy. It's something we share with everybody around us as much as we can. And it's a very, very simple concept. It's the idea that incremental improvements create exponential results. So if we make something better every day, it stacks. We make something day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, pretty soon we have exponential results. And so we were really excited about this, and our motto inside of DT became make it better. What can we make better? And it started to apply to everything. It applied to our clients, it applied to design in general, and the products we make, it applied to us as individuals. So we were pretty excited, but we're like, okay, so if we make it better, how do we get to our destination? How do we get to where we're going? So we realized, so we have a map, we don't know where to start. So we realized that, in terms of the process, we had to have baby steps, to use the same idea, of where we go first. So we had to break down all the complexity of what it takes to get to our destination, where we're going, and create objectives. We consider those waypoints. So we had to create waypoints along the way to actually figure this out. So the first part of an objective is like where you want to go first. What is the first step you need to take to getting towards your objective? And this works in business, so if you have this big audacious goal you want to accomplish, you got to start someplace. It also works personally if you have something you want to accomplish in your life, something you want to improve in. You can't just start there. You've got to start with the first step. So as we were to take these waypoints and mash them together with betterment, we knew where we were going in the short term, and those objectives are usually like a week to about 3 months in length. So we had our objectives, we had our process of betterment, we were ready to start making things better. We're like, how do we actually make things better? So we created a very simple equation. This is the only math I'm going to do, and it involves letters and not numbers. So betterment equals simple plus compelling minus friction. So we start at the end of this concept, right? So we have an objective. We want to accomplish something. Let's say it's personal. Let's say we want to feel better, right? And every day we crash at 2 o'clock because we eat big lunches. So where's the friction there? We look and we're like, okay, it could be what I'm eating, maybe. And so I can actually remove that friction and feel a bit better, but I still got to eat, right? So I replace it with something simple and compelling. I replace it with something that's maybe has less carbs in it, but still is delicious, right? So I have my enjoyment and accomplish it. Or maybe I go on a walk after lunch, and I actually breathe in this oxygen I need to do. I move my body around, and I do something I wouldn't have done otherwise, right? So that's a little bit of betterment. So we have this concept of betterment that we go through. And as we are able to pick our objectives, if you remember, 1 to 3 months, we move past, we track what we do, and we as a whole organization focus on this. So we've got our map that shows our destination. We have our waypoints we're going to, and we have the process that we're going through as we're trying to achieve our destination. It's worked really great for us. It's something we've done both on a business and personal perspective, but one thing was missing as well. So who are we being while we're doing this? What kind of people are we being? We like to think of it as like, how are we going to roll? What's our style as we're traveling? And so those are our behaviors. We call those values, right? So we all have values. And if we don't, we should identify what our values are based on our beliefs. And so I'll share our values with you guys, just so you have some ideas on how we do it. And you can come up with your own based on your belief system. So our first value is soul. We believe that we should do everything with soul. We believe that we should actually everything we do should be meaningful. And we should be embracing our artisan, our inner artisan, and we should be crafting everything that we create. And that allows us to set a standard. So as we're going through to reach our objective, we make sure everything we do along the way has soul. The second one is camaraderie. Camaraderie is very, very important to us. We don't want to do this with a bunch of random people. Whether it comes to our teammates, whether it comes to the clients that we work with, the users, the people who read our blogs, our followers on Twitter, we want to be friends with these people. And we believe that you work harder for your friends. You have more fun with your friends. You're more empowered by your friends as well. So the third one is a word, I'm curious if anybody knows what this means is arete. Has anybody heard of arete? Everybody's going to learn something new. What do you got?
Human flourishing.
Okay, yes. So it's a Greek term that means living life to one's full potential. So I believe really strongly in this. Like every day I wake up, I want to live my life to my fullest potential, but it's really, really hard, right? It's really hard to do by yourself. And so we take a little twist on it. And we say, why don't you, as a member of DT, your job is for everybody else to be living life at their fullest potential. For you to actually see their fullest potential and try to empower them to be there. So we have 25 employees. I got 24 people looking out for my arete, right? And I'm looking out for 24 other people's arete, instead of just looking out for myself. So one more, and this is kind of what ties everything together. So we've set our destination, and whether you know your destination or not, it's just good to think about it. It's just good to point in some direction. We've created a map of a way to get there. We've set some waypoints, like what are the first steps? What's the second step? What's the third step? And it's okay, if you get that squiggly line, as long as you're going in the right direction eventually. And we have our behaviors, who we're being along the way. The last thing is growth. So growth is our measurement. Lots of people try to start with growth. Their first goal is, I'm going to grow, I'm going to sell. They know when, before they have a product, they know when they're going to sell and who they're going to sell to, right? It's a hard road. So growth is something that we measure only after we've done everything else according to who we are. Only after we've been making things better and using betterment. Only after we've been following our values, doing things with soul, with our friends, and living life to our fullest potential. So growth is our measurement of our path. So if you remember Indiana Jones, when he goes flying around, you got the red line, that's what growth is to us. We actually have that up in our office. That's our process, and what it's done for us is allowed us to grow as individuals, allowed our business to grow. We grew 3x last year. We're 12 years old. Like, you don't usually do that when you're 12 years old, so we finally figured something out. So I'll give you a few examples of how we use it. So I use it myself almost every day. I like to use it before I've had coffee. It's very easy to identify friction before you've had coffee. And what I do is I write down what I want to fix. I have some coffee, and then I go fix it. We use it at our office. We have a manager of company culture, a really, really important job. And her job is to make one thing better in the office and for the employees a day. And it's amazing with that, if you remember those exponential results. So every day you have someone looking out for you to make the space better, to make your productivity better, to make you happier, make it more fun. What else do we do? So we do it for our clients. So we actually have conversations with our clients about, like, how can we make you better? And we actually measure it, how we're making them better. So we're always adding value, and we have very little churn with the people that we work with, because we're always growing them as much as we can. And then most importantly, we do it with ourselves, with our employees and our culture. So there's two fun things that we do. We do a betterment review 4 times a year. And the betterment review is actually exactly what it sounds like. It's our employees get to decide how they want to be better, how they want to grow their skills, what they want to get better at, where they want to go in their career, with one caveat: it actually has to make the company better. So we're empowering them to grow, and as a result, we're all growing. And then the last thing, as a reward, is my favorite. We have the betterment bonus. And the betterment bonus is a really awesome program. At the end of the year, we give a big chunk of cash to each one of our employees. And we ask them a question. What's something that you've always wanted to do, but you've never done? Because you haven't had time, you haven't had money, you've been too afraid to do it. And we ask them to give us a proposal with, of course, the caveat it's got to make you better. And this is something that has to be outside of business. So this is something that's either for themselves or people they care about. And we have the most awesome proposals that come in of people wanting to do incredible things. And we push them. You know, we don't just accept them, we push them to make sure they're really getting outside their comfort zone and growing. And so they go off and they do their thing. We give them a couple days off as well. And then they come back and they have to give us a presentation. So everybody in the company, including me, gives a presentation. And that's the most powerful thing, because you hear about what they're doing, it's kind of cool, but when you actually see the videos and you see the pictures and you see all the results, it's really, really cool. So a couple examples. We had one person who wanted to learn how to play the piano. We're like, why do you want to learn how to play the piano? And as he was about talking to us, we saw his hand come up, you know, and he's got this condition where he can't hold his hand still. He's like, I want to actually fix my kinesthetics. And I think he was drinking a cup of coffee at the time too. And he also said he wanted to relax after work. So we're like, okay, cool, good, okay, that's definitely a betterment, but you need to buy a piano. You need to buy a keyboard. You need to actually have this around. You can't just go learn something and then not follow up on it, because that's not lasting. That's not lasting change. And so he took his lessons, got his keyboard, and he showed a video with him playing for his little daughter after work. And he plays in the office now, and it's really cool. We all really benefit from it. Another one of our employees is a cyclist, and we're in San Diego, so San Diego is pretty flat. And so he cycles to work, he cycles during lunch, and he cycles home. And he's kind of, you know, cycled out as much as he can do unless he travels. His dream is always to go to the Tour de France. So we challenged him to go actually be trained by Tour de France cyclists. So we went all the way to Mallorca for a week, and he rode 100 miles a day, 30 miles up and down hills, and got trained by the best cyclists in the world. What else? Another one, we've had a guy who's always loved cars, super into cars, and he's kind of always dreamed about racing and driving and all this kind of stuff. And so myself and my business partner we love the track, we love cars as well. And so we're saying, you know, why don't you go to the track? You know, why don't you actually learn how to race? And so he bought a GoPro, he bought a helmet, he brought all the safety gear, and he went to a driver's ed with us. And he recorded a total Top Gear video. So he's English too, which made it even better. So he's like Jeremy Clarkson on there. He's got the split screen, he's driving, you know, like he only went off the track a couple times. But it's so rewarding, you know, it's just amazing to be able to do something so simple and see how it just permeates everything that we do. And I attribute, I guess the moral of the story is have a philosophy-driven life and company. When you know where you're going, it's really hard to get there. And when you have this internal compass that gives you a process of knowing where to go, which step to take next, it's very helpful. So these concepts are all yours as well, so please take the term betterment. Please steal anything you want to. Just tell us how it goes for you. Thank you.
That was really refreshing. You have a refreshing energy, wouldn't you say? All right, very inspirational too. So who's got the first question for Chuck? Okay, I'm going to go back here.
I can answer design questions too if you want.
Yeah, so what sort of things do you design?
Okay, so we specialize in building websites for fast growth startups. So typically startups that are capitalized of 5 million or above. And we build web applications that are the business themselves. And we build mobile applications, and we work with thought leaders, like we work with Tim Ferriss and Eric Ries. So camaraderie is one of our values, right? So we work with people that we believe in, that inspire us, but mostly digital design.
Hey, Chuck.
Hi, Kathy.
So what you were just talking about, it's a very kind of a soft emotional side of coming to a story. Do you ever find when you're working with a client that they get to kind of a blockade of fear of not being able to get, like they're thinking so much about the tactical or the structural part of a story that they lose the heart part of it, or the kind of the heart and soul is just hard for some people to get to?
Yeah.
And what do you do to help them?
It's a good question. So up front, we learned this the hard way. I used to close any deal, you know, it was like closing deals like Happy Meals. Like I'd take anything, and that doesn't work. That doesn't scale. And so we work a lot, we give a lot in the very beginning of our relationships. We don't charge people to have us figure out what we're gonna do for them because we wanna spend time with them. So we check them out big time. We have drinks with them, you know, we know their dogs' names, everything. So that helps a lot. But that still happens, that's human, right? Like we all get scared and we all forget while we're doing this, we all have bad days. And so the first thing that we do is we always try to help them. We always try to keep them centered as much as we can. And we get them to go through a few exercises where we can always bring back to them, like these are your objectives. Like these are the waypoints we're going towards. But in the case where it's still an issue, we have to evaluate it. If it's not a big deal, we move forward, it's fine. If it is a big deal, sometimes it leads to us not working with them anymore.
All right, in the back here.
Have you invested a lot in internal tools to track some of the programs that you have? Or is it pen and
I'm a
paper?
total tool addict. So what type of tracking? We have probably 50 tools we use.
Okay, so everything is kind of quantified there?
In terms of metrics?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we use, so in terms of website tracking, we use Chartbeat to be able to...
I meant like for your Betterment programs.
Oh, for Betterment. Okay,
'cause you
gotcha.
said at one point that you wrote it down in the morning. Do you record that and share it?
Yeah, my GM is in charge of it, and he is old school. And so everything's in Excel, and it's super analog. And so I would probably be on my 15th program tracking it right now, or building one. But he tracks that all in Excel, and it's actually the job of whoever the managers are. So we have designers, strategists, and developers, and all of them have leaders. And so you have, designers have 3 sets of leaders, and each of those people are responsible for the people that work with them. And so they're responsible for knowing what everybody's goals are, and the people that they work for are responsible for knowing what everybody's goals are from there as well. There's one program that we use that keeps track weekly on objectives in Betterment. It's called 15.5, and it's a great program for any company that's 3 people or more, and it's a weekly reporting system.
All right, next question. Who's got another question for us? All right, up here and then over here.
What's the return on investment in design when it's subjective? And also the commoditization of design with like 99 Design, crowdsourcing?
It's a good question. So we used to do everything, and we picked design because it's very difficult to commoditize. You can get design with 99 Designs, but if you want to get great design, you need to actually go through a long process and work with a great designer or hire one. So there's a difference between the two. And it depends, when you're talking about return on investment, it depends on how high you're playing, what the stakes are, right? If you're a young startup, you're bootstrapping, if you're starting something slow and you want to take the long road, then you shouldn't invest up front heavily in design because it can be very expensive. But if you're raising capital and you want to move fast and you want to differentiate yourself, you want to stand out from everybody else and you want to perform better, that's when it pays off. In terms of subjective, we do all kinds of cool stuff behind the scenes. We start with one design, and that design is never the same. That design changes all the time. So we're watching with heat maps, we're A/B testing, we're doing qualitative analysis and learning what people are looking for and where the friction is. That's really where that equation comes in. Every time we notice friction, we replace it with something more simple and compelling. And so that's how you balance out the subjective side of things, because the numbers don't lie.
Hey, what's going on, Chuck? My name is Jacob. Hey, I love your philosophy. I just want to say thanks and for sharing that with us. I'm a firm believer that the way that we take care of the employees in the workplace separates anybody from any business from one another. I personally want to ask you how it feels to be you, to empower your employees.
It's good.
And,
yeah.
You know, the feeling it creates. You know?
It's fun, you know. I don't have kids, but I have like 24 kids every time I come to work, you know. So I'm like a proud papa up there all the time, and it's cool because I've had most of my best employees were interns, right? They were this is their only job, and my whole goal is to create a career for them if that's what they want to do. And so seeing that growth is very, very rewarding. And it's also, makes you a little weak sometimes because when you should probably be hard around them, you're not. But yeah, it's really, really great. Thanks for asking.
Good question. Got time for a couple more questions. One more question. Okay, one more question, right?
Where can we read more about your philosophies? Do you have stuff on your website?
Absolutely.
Have you written somewhere?
Thanks for asking. So my website is digital-telepathy, just like the Twitter handle, .com. And our blog is where we release 3 to 4 posts a week right now. We just got a blog editor, which is awesome. Writing takes me forever. I write some personal stuff on a platform called Subtle, and the URL is called TimeCapSoul, but soul is spelled like our value soul with a U. And then Twitter is, I'll spam you on Twitter if you want me to.
Excellent. I think we have one more question. Anybody have one more question? We've got time. Okay, right here. This is the closing question.
So I think it's really interesting how you're treating your employees, but like you said, you're on your 6th startup, Would you have found it more challenging to do that on the first startup? Or, I assume by the 6th you had some pretty good funding and some pretty good backing and connection.
So a couple interesting facts. This is my first company. Well, it's my second company, but the first one doesn't count. It's my first company. I started it in 2001. And one day I kind of realized I have a company that builds companies. And so we've incubated all of the startups out of our company, out of our profits, and we've never raised a penny, which is good and bad. We do things slow and make a lot of mistakes, but we're our own boss. So it's always been the same thing, but I've almost quit 2 or 3 times. I moved to San Francisco in 2010 for 2 years just to kind of get out of San Diego and get closer to the heartbeat of tech. But I always end up coming back, and I always end up reinventing what we do. And having the philosophy is what's really fired me up recently.
Excellent. Great questions. Chuck, thanks so much. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much.